Am I the asshole for putting my brother on speaker and letting his fiance hear about what he's been asking me to do? Content: I, 23 male, and what people will call tech savvy. I know like a bunch of stuff about computer programming and mobile software, but seriously, I consider myself good since plenty of people come to me for help. For free, of course. So lately, my brother, 27 male, has been asking me to install a tracking app on his fiance's iPhone. Like, he had brought it to me twice and I refused after he tried to pressure me to do it. He even offered money, but I refused because I felt it was kind of wrong, and also, I only help out people who only want to be helped and like, don't have bad intentions. I refused because his fiance doesn't deserve this. I thought he had dropped it after I told him that if he asked me again, I'd tell her. Well, a couple of days ago, he calls me up while I was at my parents' house. His fiance happened to be there too. I answer the phone and he brings up the tracking app again. I put him on speaker and be like, sorry, come again? And he says, it's about the tracking app. I want it on my fiance's phone. I need you to do it tonight when I stop by with her phone. He proceeds on how he can no longer lie about her phone being missing when he hides it and brings it to me. Basically telling me this was the last chance he's got to put the app on there. My parents go silent, but his fiance looks shocked, then goes off on him, and then he hangs up and she grabs her purse and rushes out. My parents lash out on me, asking me what the heck I had done. I tell them he refused to get off my back after I warned him. They cuss at me saying I just caused a huge problem between my brother and his fiance and stuff like that. Later, my brother was calling non-stop, and when I gave no response, he sent a nasty text calling me names and stuff, then saying that I might have just compromised his entire relationship. I haven't seen nor heard from my family or him since then. I feel terrible, not gonna lie, and like I really messed up by putting a private conversation on speaker. So, am I the asshole? Know that this started right after his fiance got a new job.
Mock my disability, I'll get you fired. So I, 23 female, was on the bus to university about 2 years ago, and there was a woman who sat 2 seats in front of me. Now I wear baggy clothes 99% of the time, especially when outside my home, so I had joggers on and a big baggy jumper. I suffer quite a lot with sensory issues, so when in public, I wear my headphones and usually have my hood up, head down. Basically get on and get off as soon as possible. But this day it was quite hot, not enough to take off my jumper, but enough to roll my sleeves up. So I have tattoos. This woman had been looking around the bus a lot at this point and just generally looking around. She saw me stretch my arms above my head, a common take, and she approached me. She sat in the seat next to me and was smiling. I tried to be polite, even took out a headphone, which I never do. This lady looked kind enough, older woman with blonde hair. I was curious as to why she sat next to me and moved seats, so I just tried to mind my own business. About 5 minutes later, she tapped me on my shoulder and asked about one of my tattoos. Now, I love getting tattoos. I wish I had more. I find it very therapeutic. She pointed out specifically the one on my forearm that is a bees and honeycomb. She then asked me if I went to the Ariana Grande concert, to which I said no. I was confused as to why she would assume I did, and she could tell, so she said, a lot of people who were there got bees tattooed. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. She continued to ask me about my other tattoos, many being family related or dedications. She then saw my last tattoo, a song quote with a puzzle piece, and when I say this woman's face dropped, it dropped. She proceeded to sit up straight and said that it was so disrespectful to autistic people. You should be ashamed of yourself. Don't you know the puzzle piece is linked to a hate group? Do you hate autistic people? I was gobsmacked. I just said like, ma'am, with all due respect, why do you think I have the tattoo? I am autistic. And she said, you aren't autistic. You're on a bus and you're speaking to me. Do you think it's funny to pretend to be disabled? I work with disabled people. This is disgusting. Blah, blah, blah. I just said, with all due respect, you don't know how long it's taken me to even be able to get on a bus. Never mind stay on one for a full journey. You don't know me or my diagnosis, and that all autistic people are different and show different signs. She kept going on to me about people she worked with and all that jazz. So I asked what company she works for and her name. I basically bullshitted my way through, you know, maybe you're right. I would love to be more educated on this like you. So then she went on a rant about her work and her stepson for some reason. I ended up getting off the bus early. I just wanted to get off and away from this woman. That was enough human interaction for one day. I went home and I told my sister, and she ended up finding the website for the company. She was so angry. We ended up calling her company and asked after her. We finally found her. Let's just say they said they had issues with her before in and out of work. I found out later that she had gotten fired for disability discrimination in and out of the workplace. Apparently, she hasn't found a job since. Feels good, man. I, 32, have a brother, Dave, 35, who's married to Sarah, 29. They don't have children yet. I have a son who just turned 4 and a 3-month-old daughter with my husband, 39. My husband and I live in Belgium most of the time, but we travel back to visit my family about once a month in England. At home, we speak both English and French to our children. My husband is Belgian, and right now, my son is in a very sweet phase where he'll sometimes mix up the 2 languages and say a couple of words in English in a French sentence or vice versa. This has never posed a problem to us, and even the staff at his nursery have reassured us that it's very common and they tend to grow out of it once they start school. My sister-in-law has decided that this is a problem, so when we're visiting my parents and she notices my son doing this, she'll correct him, but she does so really rudely, whereas my husband and I will just gently correct him. Anyway, we're visiting at the moment and she's now decided that instead of correcting him, she's just going to start ignoring him when he does this. I sort of noticed her doing it when we arrived, and I thought it was odd, but assumed that maybe maybe she was just stressed. Her job is quite intense, but it only really became an issue yesterday. My husband was talking to my dad outside and I was feeding my daughter in the room. I'd left Lewis with Sarah and Dave. When I came back downstairs, Lewis was crying and I managed to understand that he tried to ask Sarah for a drink. He has a special cup that he uses that he was holding, so it was obvious what he meant, but that she just ignored him. I asked her why and she explained that she wasn't going to reply to him unless he said the sentence correctly and that I shouldn't be ignoring my son's obvious speech issues. For context, it's not that she didn't know what he wanted. She told me that she understood exactly what he was asking for, but that she was deliberately refusing because he hadn't asked correctly. This really pissed me off, but luckily my husband came inside at that moment and pulled me away so that we could calm down and settle Lewis. That night at the dinner table, Sarah asked me to pass her something, but she said it in bad English. She is English, I just mean that she asked for it in slang. Think, pass us the peas, will you? I had a bit of an epiphany and I just decided to totally ignore her. She asked again and I did the same thing. My brother asked why I was ignoring his wife and I said that I'm not able to reply if she can't speak English correctly and that it's wrong for him to ignore her obvious issues with grammar. Everyone's pretty pissed off with me and I admit it was incredibly childish, but she was needlessly being a dickhead to my baby. So am I wrong for doing the same thing to my sister-in-law that she does to my son? And should I apologize?
Story time about how my grandma almost got me grounded. So a little background information, I was 14 and in 8th grade, and there was this boy that I really liked who lived like 10 minutes away from me. So the one night he asked me if I wanted to hang out, and my mom was strict about me not hanging out with people after 7 o'clock at night, especially a boy. I wasn't even allowed to hang out with boys. And my grandma, my mom, and my brother and I all lived together, and we all had our own rooms. Mine was on the first floor of the house, so I snuck out the window and I went and hung out with him. So I snuck out at around 3 and came back at around 4 a.m. And my grandma comes into my room to wake me up for school. And I guess that I had been laying on my side and my hair was like pulled up, because literally all I remember waking up to is her smacking me up out of my sleep and screaming at me because there was a hickey on my neck. She's like, I'm telling your mom whenever she gets home, your window's gonna be screwed shut. And I keep telling her it's not a hickey, so she calls my brother over. And he's like, yeah, that's definitely a hickey, because he likes to kiss her ass. Like, part 2 about how my grandma almost got me grounded. So like I said, she's like, I'm telling your mom, and I keep telling her that it's not a hickey. And thankfully, my mom already went to work. She had work at 6 a.m. So I get on the bus, I go to school, and I'm talking to my friend and telling her about how I'm literally going to be crucified whenever I get home. And she told me about how her older sister was in like the same situation that I'm in now. So she texted her older sister asking what she did because she never got caught. And I was like, okay, well, if she used makeup, my mom's going to find out because she's not dumb. Well, apparently her older sister burnt herself with a curling iron. Yes, literally burnt herself, but she ended up getting away with it. So fast forward, I get home at around 3 o'clock and I sneak in through the back door so that way my grandma won't see that I came in the house, because she literally would have made me sit in the living room until my mom got home. So I go upstairs and I burn myself with a curling iron, which is not fun. Like for part 3. Part 3 about how my grandma almost got me grounded. So like I said, I snuck in through the back door so that way my grandma wouldn't see me, because if she saw me, she would have made me wait in the living room with her until my mom got home. So, burnt myself with the curling iron and my mom gets home. And since I'm on the first floor, I can literally hear my grandma talking to my mom and my brother, of course. My grandma's like, yeah, she has hickeys all over her neck, which is literally an exaggeration because there was one small one. So my mom calls me out to the living room. I go out and she's like, all right, show it to me. And I'm like, show you what? She's like, don't play stupid. Your grandma already told me the whole situation. And I was like, Mom, I literally burnt myself with a curling iron. And my grandma's like screaming and freaking out because I'm lying. She's like, you better tell your mother the truth right now. Da 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 da. So I show the burn to my mom. She looks at my grandma and she's like, so you're gonna tell me that's not a burn on her neck? And she was like, that's not how it looked this morning, blah, blah, blah. So I got away with it, but now my grandma literally stalks me to see if I'm doing anything wrong so she can tell my mom.
Am I wrong for choosing a name for my unborn baby that my ex picked out? A month ago, I, 24 male, found out that my girlfriend of 17 months, Caitlin, 21 female, is pregnant. She told me that she hoped it was a girl, so a couple of nights ago we started discussing baby names. I suggested Winter and she absolutely loved it. Winter was the name that my ex-girlfriend Alex came up with when me and her were expecting. Unfortunately, she miscarried. I ended up leaving Alex a month later because honestly, after she miscarried, I fell out of love with her. I started dating Caitlin a couple of months later. Caitlin ended up telling our friends that it was a girl and that she'll be naming it Winter. My friends are also still friends with Alex and they knew that Winter was the name that we picked out when she was pregnant. My friends told Alex and she said something along the lines of that she was kind of disappointed, but she wasn't surprised that I did this because I was a pig. She also said that at this point she didn't care because she didn't even want any kids anymore, and even if she did, she couldn't stop me from naming my baby Winter, even though it was supposed to be the name of the baby that she was carrying. I assumed that this gave me and Caitlin the green light to go ahead and name our baby Winter if it was a girl. I even thought Winter would be perfect because Caitlin already had a daughter named Autumn. But my friends and even some of my family members are telling me that this was an asshole move and was rubbing salt in the wound since I left Alex after she miscarried and I am now stealing her dead baby's name. I personally don't see anything wrong with it, especially since Alex said she doesn't care. But am I really the asshole?
I want to confess to my best friend that I'm in love with him, but he's engaged, and I'm also invited to his wedding. Hi, my name is Sarah and I'm 28 years old. My best friend, Jake, is 29 years old. We met in college and we were inseparable ever since. Everyone, and I mean every single person, thought we were dating. That's how well that we got along. And it wasn't just because we were the opposite gender, it was because of our chemistry. A lot of the time, I thought he was flirting with me too, and that he had undeniable love such as I did for him. But one day, he said, I want you to meet someone special, and I'm like, oh, okay, who? I thought he was introducing me to his family member, because he wanted to be in a serious relationship with me. But he actually ended up introducing me to this girl, and her name was Kelsey. Kelsey was so pretty, but I didn't understand why he was introducing me to her, until he introduced her as his girlfriend. I met her and she was nice and sweet, and he told me that he wanted to propose to her, and they had been dating for 2 years and I had no idea about it. I asked him why he would hide such a thing from me in the first place, and you will not believe what he said. Make sure to follow so you can see part 2. I want to confess to my best friend that I'm in love with him, but he's engaged, and I'm invited to his wedding. So he told me about this girl, Kelsey, and I literally haven't known about her for 2 years, and he wanted me to help plan the surprise proposal. I asked him why he didn't tell me about it, and he was like, honestly, due to a lot of past experiences, I tend to introduce my lover to family and friends just for me to break up with them and not want to be with them. But this time, Kelsey was different than everything I could ever ask for. That's why I decided to introduce her to you. You're someone who means a lot to me too. That melted my heart, but I was also jealous because I wish I could have been the girl. So flash forward, I helped with the proposal or whatever, and it was really cute and stuff. I was there. And then they invited me to the wedding. So then I attend the wedding, and I remember there's a part where they usually ask, like, does anyone oppose? And if anyone opposes, stand now and let them know. And I low-key want to, like, stand up and just confess my feelings for him, but I'm not too sure what to do.